It's not just academics that are important to your child's success in school. It's also really supporting their social and emotional learning and development.
That's the goal. I tear up thinking about it because for me, I want you to have that hope because your hope and belief is what is going to project onto your son.
Welcome back to another episode of the Unspoken Words podcast, a selected Mutism podcast by the Smart Center, produced and published by New Edition Productions. This episode features another live chat with parents at a recent CommuniCamp, this time focusing on back-to-school strategies and tips for parents with children and teens with selective mutism. In the episode, Dr. E sits down with 3 parents during their lunch break at the Smart Center's August CommuniCamp. They discuss strategies for a positive start to the upcoming school year, navigating the bathroom issue at school, what to do when your child refuses to go to school, and more. Before we get started, if you have any questions on anything you hear in today's episode, please head to selectivemutismcenter.org/ask Dr. E, that's ASKDRE, and enter your question in the form. The team reads all of your submissions and does their best to answer them on podcast episodes, blog posts, and on social media. And speaking of social media, for the best of this episode and every episode of Unspoken Words, make sure you're following the podcast on Instagram and YouTube. On Instagram, we are at UnspokenWords_podcast, and on YouTube, we are Unspoken Words Podcast by Dr. E. All right, without further ado, please enjoy the latest episode of the Unspoken Words podcast.
Hi, everyone. It's Dr. E. Before we get started with today's episode, I'm so excited to announce that our popular Selective Mutism in the School virtual conference is now available as a self-paced online course. The conference dives into how to assess the mute child, testing for common comorbidities, and proven strategies and interventions to support students with SM within the school. And of course, we dive into accommodations and interventions such as 504s and IEPs. The course offers 5.5 continuing education credits for most professionals. So parents, share this opportunity with your child's school. To sign up, just head to our website or check the description in this podcast episode. Together, we can create a world where every child has a voice. Now, enjoy the episode. Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of Unspoken Words. We're at CommuniCamp. It's our last CommuniCamp of the summer, August 2025. And I am honored to be here with 3 of the parents of children that are attending CommuniCamp. So what I'd love you guys to do is just briefly introduce yourself, say your name, say where you're from, the age of your child, and how much you're loving CommuniCamp.
Okay, I am Liza. I am the parent of a 5, soon to be 6-year-old in a couple of days. I am from Evanston, Illinois. Evanston is just north of Chicago. And I am loving CommuniCamp, loving the support from the parents. I think my son is getting a ton out of it, though he doesn't quite know that yet. But he did wake up and went to camp like a trooper today. So just enjoying everything.
Hi, my name is Mary Alice. I have a 5-year-old daughter here, and we are from outside Philadelphia, so pretty close by. This is actually our second CommuniCamp. So we first came in January of 2024, and I really enjoyed the parent support and the sessions the first time. And this time I am just in awe of how much progress we have made in the past more than year and a half, and just amazed by my daughter's progress. It's very exciting.
Hi, I'm Cynthia, and our family is from Texas. We have a 12-year-old daughter. We are absolutely enjoying CommuniCamp. We're learning a lot as a family. We're learning the different strategies and how to implement in different scenarios, different situations. So we are just looking forward to everything else that the next few days have to offer.
Awesome. So welcome. So all 3 of you submitted questions. It's really regarding school because school's about to start if it hasn't already for some of you. And it was interesting with all 3 of your sets of questions, there was such similarities. So what I did is I kind of put them together to be able to address them, but I'm all about open dialogue. I love conversation. So even though maybe you asked a question, you certainly should answer the question as well. So, and give your feedback because this is what this is about. And our whole goal for this is to educate others and offer support but to give them the hope that children absolutely can overcome SM and reach their capacity and their potential. We see it every day. And just even from, day 1 to 2, the progress these kids have made is just remarkable. And honestly is what gives me such joy. I mean, my kids know this. I live for this. Gives me such joy. So I'm excited. So let's get started. Do you want to ask your first question?
Yes. I think this was a question that a number of us had. And as we are approaching the start of the new school year, we all are thinking about the transition into either a new grade, a new classroom, or for a couple of us, a new school. So my daughter is about to start kindergarten, and I guess I'm wondering, how do we prepare for this transition? Are there steps we should be taking, conversations that we should be having? And how can I prepare her for what will feel really big?
So your child is going into kindergarten. What grade is your child going into?
7th grade.
7th. Is it a new school at all?
No, it's the second year at the same school.
So you have it a little bit easier.
Just a little.
Just a little bit easier. So the biggest thing that I want to say to all parents is you've got to be upbeat and positive. One of the things that I notice with parents is they're very nervous, especially with the start of kindergarten or the start of high school. The anxiety that they have can be very easily projected onto their child. So number 1 is we have to figure out how can we be upbeat and positive so that if we have anxiety, we deal with it away from our kids, but we look at it in a very positive way. Believe it or not, you don't want to talk about it so much that it becomes this big heightened thing. So you say it as, we're excited, we're going to kindergarten, we're going to go look at the school. One of the things is preparing. I'm really big with preparing, but preparing upbeat and positive, but in a way that's natural. So it's very natural to think about, well, how do I prepare? Well, let's go visit the school. So walking the school, visiting the playground, walking the halls, mapping out what rooms they're going to be in. Now, some of you may not be able to get into the school yet, but as soon as you can, and this should be in a 504 or an IEP, that you have the ability to get into the school and walk the halls. So I call it walk the halls. And I call it that because you're walking the halls. And if you can get the schedule like 7th grade, and we know from 8 to 9 or 9 to 10, you want to visit those rooms so that the child can actually make a roadmap of their daily schedule. Kindergarten is one room. 1st grade is another room. They don't tend to move around. Do your kids go to like a music class, an art class?
Well, my son will be starting at public school, so there'll be the whole gamut.
So it'll be the whole gamut. So this is a new school for him as well.
Yes.
So both of you are in the new school. I'm super anxious. What the heck do I do? I'm so glad to be on this podcast.
I couldn't be more anxious.
Well, the good news is that every kid has to go through this and that he's not alone. And that when you start in a new school, everyone's starting in a new school. So it's not like he's isolated out where he's entering into, let's say, 2nd grade and everyone's been there for 2 years. So everyone's going to be nervous. So misery loves company. But I think the preparation is really important. Have you had opportunities to walk the halls and visit the school?
We have.
Not yet, but we've been on the playground.
Okay. You want to get into the school. Have you had opportunities, even with your age, to connect with peers or children that may be in his or her class?
Possibly. I'm in a bit of a unique situation in that we haven't really decided on kindergarten or 1st grade yet.
Oh, okay.
And I know that's a little bit odd given the school's about 2 weeks away. But given his challenges, his birthday is in the middle of August, which is right near the cutoff. So we've sort of been counseled to stay back, but he's sort of the age. Let me give you some
feedback on this. I know that not everyone has this, but it's really important to think about, even though you're not holding your children back. You want to look at 4 domains. You want to look at their social growth, their maturity. You want to look at their emotional maturity, how like anxiety, their worries, their fears, their ability to function, separation anxiety, severity. You want to really think about that. You want to think about where are they academically? Are they on par? Are they above? Or are they still struggling a bit? I want to say that when I talk about this, this has nothing to do with intelligence, because some parents personalize this and be like, but my child's really smart. Has nothing to do with intelligence. Emotional growth, social growth, academics, where they're at. I mean, it could with academics, but for many kids, they could be functioning on grade level or above at home, but in the classroom, their anxiety is so high that they can't show it. So that's important. And communication functioning. Believe it or not, the least concern is communication for me. So in other words, I can have a completely mute child, but struggle completely mute, peers and teachers. So that's not the reason that I think about retaining, because I believe with treatment, with strategies, interventions, accommodations in the school, the children do really well. And you know this. So the reason I'm saying that is I want you to think about academics, social and emotional, and where your son is, because you will only thank me and thank us if you retain him, but you could kick yourself if you move him forward and he's not ready. One more year of growth is only going to help a child become a more confident being, a more confident being, growing in these areas and going in as a leader and a more of a big shot than more of an underdog. So think about it. Not telling you what to do, but I had to say it for you and our listeners, and happy to discuss this more, because I'm not telling you to retain. I'm telling you to think about these things. So as far as transition goes, walking the halls, also kind of letting them draw a roadmap. If you don't know any kids yet, as soon as the school year starts, you want to connect with the teacher to think who would be a good match. I can tell you, I did this for my own daughter, who back when she was starting kindergarten, and finding out that there were other kids that loved art like she did, or a little boy I'm working with that loves chess, and finding out another little boy in the class loves chess, and finding those common areas, and then working with those parents in some capacity that you may not get to know until back to school night. But sometimes the teacher can help ease the transition with giving a note to another parent to help that parent say, hey, there's other children that would love to have a get together. One of the biggest ways to help with ease of transition is to practice in advance. If school's starting on August 28th, starting August 15th, get up a little earlier in the day that's closer to the time of school. Because I don't know about your kids, but when my kids were home in the summer, they were sleeping late, going to bed late, doing all of that, so that when school came, all of a sudden they had to be at school at 8:05. That was like they were still sleeping and dreaming over the summer at that time. So you definitely want to get that routine of school going much sooner than you realize, especially for our children that really can have struggles with transition, getting places early. If there is nothing wrong with getting there 15 minutes early and being the first to arrive versus the last to arrive. Because, and I don't know if with your child, if you're on the bus, so you don't have a choice.
No, we drop off, so we're good.
Get there early. And one of the questions I'm asked, I was just asked this 2 days ago during an intensive I did, is like, my child won't go into school. Didn't go into preschool. What do we do? You walk your child into school, and you have to have permission for that. You don't want to fight with them on day one, but you want to kind of practice the drop off, but walk in. What you're going to do is you're going to walk them in, but as they settle into school, you're going to be walking out. And you may even set up a path where day one, I walk into the classroom, get them in. Might be day 3 and 4 that you do that. Maybe the second week you start where you drop off at the door and the teacher takes them. And then the third, you know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden you're at the entrance to the school. Then you can get real creative where they help you, because it's very important they're involved in this, where they can even step it back where you eventually drop off right at their car. Do you have any feedback on that?
I do. I have a question, actually, in that our elementary school, I don't believe, permits parents to walk students into school. Is this something we should push if that's not allowed?
Well, I guess the question is, if you dropped off at the corner, at the curb, sorry, not the corner, the curb, how do you think that she will do?
I think it will be challenging no matter how we do it. And what they typically do for kids who have separation issues is that they're on their radar. So we are on their radar as a potential, struggle with separation. And then they have the counselor meet the students outside. So they're sort of handled by an individual who helps them transition.
That's ideal.
Okay.
So I'm by no means telling you to go into the school. I'm giving you the backups, like the bridging back. Okay. Like, in other words, the goal is that we're just like everyone else. But the fact is, if they're not and they're screaming and having a fit. So when you talk about the counselor or the teacher, part of the ease of transition is to have them meet this teacher before the school year starts. In an ideal world, in your case, you might have to go to multiple teachers, 7 teachers, and do the back to school summer vacation questions, which we have in the summer vacation and back to school guide, and we're working on with your child at camp. So that they create this. I interviewed, I answered, I asked. It might be at their level, which may be nonverbal at the start. I'm not sure. But what I'm saying is, having something to focus on to meet the teacher, a book about my summer. I went on a trip to Portugal, having a picture album, maybe a book about me and all my interests and my family members. It gives a focus rather than this. Because some children, now your child's older, so it's a little different.
So we've done that before when she was younger, and it did help a lot. Elementary was very supportive, very cohesive, that net was there. So middle school, this has been different. So
yeah, it's definitely different.
7 different times.
Yeah, it's definitely hard, but it gets easier, right?
It is.
Yeah, and so I think it's important that and also that those comfort items to bring to school. And you can be in 7th grade or 12th grade, but have a comfort item that you bring. I've had kids have a picture of their mom or dad and their family. They have this thing at Christmas time, at the holiday time, where it's this picture thing where you send it in and they give you an ornament of your of whatever you want it to be. I did it with all 4 of my children and their partners and me in the picture. And we were all there as a family. And I love that. And I actually have one on the little tree, the Hanukkah tree. And then I have one that I hang in my room because I just love seeing it. So we've done that where kids have sent that in with their family. And then they have their little family with them wherever they go. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a security blanket. Who cares? What are you thinking so far?
I think that's very helpful. One of the things that we've done is we don't really know anybody going into school. So I found another mom on Facebook and we started a Facebook group together. My daughter knows one child, but now we've started having a couple of play dates with the people in the group. So while we're not really, they're just kind of in proximity and playing near each other at this point, at least it's something. And it's allowing us, we ended up connecting with another separation anxiety family and walking the halls with them. Okay. It's positive, even though it's sort of a step-by-step process.
So that child should be, if they're going into the same grade, you should reach out to the school and they know about SM.
Yes.
And the separation anxiety and the anxiety. That child should be your child's first buddy so that they have the reassurance they're sitting next to each other. In fact, meeting with the teacher to know where they're sitting, where their cubby is in advance, that should be part of your IEP 504 so that they have those special circumstances. If a counselor is coming out, your daughter should meet that counselor way before the first day of school and know where that room is as well. I think the hardest part is how we handle this. And I think they feel our anxiety and our worries. Also, if you have a partner, it's easier to transition with the partner than you. Let's say all of you are women, husbands, or partners. Having them bring your child may be easier drop off than you.
It is.
Okay. I mean, look, listen, we can put all of our hands together. As moms, we get anxious and nervous more, and we show it more than the dads tend to. They hide it better than us. They don't worry. Listen, they don't worry like we do. I get it. I remember when my daughter started kindergarten, I was terrified. So I understand the feelings you have, and I commiserate. So I get it. But the good news is they're going to do great with all of this prep. And you're going to look back and go, all of these little bits of pieces helped. Did you want to ask a question?
So with the school that we're going to, they're going to start initiating the 504 after school starts. So it's not in place yet. What I'm concerned about on day one is the bathroom, because my son will not initiate. And that's a setback when they have an accident. So I'm working to make sure that there's somebody there who will prompt him, because that's what we do now. But do you have any suggestions about
First of all, is there a reason they're not doing the 504 before the school year?
I brought it up in the spring, and they said that their A team gets going in the fall. Okay. So that's why we don't do it.
Have you had the chance to educate them?
Yeah, I have. A little bit.
Okay. Well, after camp, you're going to get a ton of resources. And in those resources are buddy handouts, spot work, small group work, because the concepts that one of the best ways to prepare is educating staff, plain and simple. We give you so many materials to educate. families we work with that get the intensive, let's say, and they get the plan. You go in and you work through it, you talk through it as if it's a guide. But also the trainings. We offer it if you have an outside treatment provider and they offer it, you want them trained. The best way to prevent the pitfalls, one of you asked about pitfalls. Was it you? Was it you? Yeah, the concern is to try to avoid pitfalls. In other words, the more trained they are. So what we recommend is a beginning school year training. And in that training, we train the staff to not only understand the concepts of SM and the bridge, but to what does your child need in the school? And how do we get that set up? And it's usually a meeting of the minds. In other words, small groups. So I say every single child every school needs to understand that comfort, connection precedes communication. So how are we going to help with connection and comfort building? And how are we going to help progress occur? Because it doesn't usually occur in the middle of a big group. So what we have to do is talk about the 4 pillars. How do we implement the buddy process? So it's not that your child has small groups. It's what are you doing in the small groups? How are you questioning? When are you questioning? Who's included in those questioning? And that stuff has to be worked out. So from the start, they need 2 to 3, 3 to 5 buddies they're paired with and sat with. Now you're dealing with 7th grade mixed classes.
Yes, we are.
So if there's children that are rotating in other classes, to try to have them sit with those children, because if they built comfort and communication with those children outside of school, those children can naturally be a verbal intermediary if need be.
If needed. Okay.
And the staff has to be trained on what strategies work best.
And I think that's where we're at. The resources for the staff, the resources that they can go and find and look back at.
Well, what you want is it personalized to your child, because there's a million resources out there. But the general resources are important of what is SM, but also making sure that my philosophy. I'm not a treat to speak I'm not a focus on speaking only. I'm on understanding the child and their unique needs and then developing the treatment. Because for many kids, it's literally engaging activities, handing and taking, avoiding direct eye contact, asking other children first. For many children, it's the ability to write and read. And so they have the ability to write and read or write and show, to use of a verbal intermediary. Like, for example, if you have a child, even in your age range, that gets to know somebody outside of school and they progress into speech, a really wonderful strategy is pairing and grouping them. But if they haven't progressed into speech with the teacher yet, but they're sitting with them, what is wrong with saying, do you want red or blue? No answer. Red or blue, tell Rebecca. And now you're prompting your child to verbalize to the person they're the most comfortable and communicative with, and to have the opportunity to spend time in the school after school. So in your 504s and IEPs, you should have the ability, ideally, to have time after school to meet with teachers and things like that. Now, not all teachers have the ability to meet with you after school, but usually when you email the teachers, they will often make time to meet with you outside the school time. And it may not be in your IEP in 504. And I think one of you asked, okay, we may have an IEP, like what is that about? Like, one, it's getting overall goals. So your overall goal may be to build comfort with all peers and teachers, to become responsive with peers and teachers, to be able, you know what I mean? But it's the strategies that aren't necessarily in a 504, that aren't in an IEP, that have to be tweaked. So the beginning training, and then you get training every 6 to 8 weeks after to tweak. So usually for most clinicians, it's about an hour training and then 30 minutes thereafter, based on how that child is progressing. So they need bullet points, 5 good bullet points to work on, and then we tweak it. So I think the best way to avoid pitfalls is to try to train. Now, with bathroom issues, there's lots of kids that have bathroom issues, eating issues, bathroom issues, behaviors. All of that is kind of common with our kids. If you have the ability to, is it the flushing toilets? Is it the being in a group?
It's pretty much any bathroom outside the house and his current school that he's used to and his grandmother's house. He won't use them for the most part.
Okay, he will not go outside the home.
For the most part.
Okay. So if he won't go outside the home, is there a way that you have access to because I mean, these are things you can talk about on the outside of the podcast, but one of the concerns is a child holding their urine in for 8 hours a day in a first grade class.
Yes.
And how are you going to do that? Because the last thing you want is accidents, because that's humiliating. So then how do we deal with that? So can you have access to bathrooms that you work with him on now? And even so in many 504s and IEPs, we've had private bathrooms. I don't mean private where it's just your son, but I mean like a staff bathroom that they have access to and that you have the ability to go in with him. And there are some parents, schools don't like, this isn't easy and I don't know how it'll work to have the ability to come into school, to at least get him to go into school as a first step, and then we wean you out. Because if he's not going even with you outside the home much, I'm concerned about what he's going to do in the school.
He's gotten used to his preschool bathroom. It's a nice bathroom. It's got murals on the wall.
Sounds perfect. I might go there.
I don't know what the new bathroom is going to bring, but that's a good reason to go visit the school, expose him to the bathroom. Right now, in his current preschool, he's prompted to go.
And that's fine. That would be part of your 504, to prompt him to go. Some kids wear like a little watch. Looks like a watch and a little haptic, the little haptics, the little alarms that every hour you have it go off, and that reminds them I need to go try. But I would, in your case, make sure there's a bathroom that he can go to if he doesn't go into the communal bathroom. And they should make that allowance. I've had lots of kids that have had to use different bathrooms because they're not comfortable going when others are around. I think we talked about somebody asked about the pitfalls. I do want to mention the biggest challenge is the teachers not knowing what to do, but also large groups and expecting progress. So progress tends to happen away. So the buddy process, the get-togethers with those buddies outside of school or meeting on the school playground, but small group opportunity in the form of like a lunch bunch, a recess bunch, a resource room, to have it with the buddy process going on. Lunch bunches are usually pretty easy to arrange. The problem is the frequency is not usually at our satisfaction level. And that's because it's a school and it's staffing. But having the ability to do lunch bunch, small groups, both out of the room and then in the room. So in the room may be that counselor that comes in and does what we call spot work, which is a section in the room that's away from the full group. And you never want to make it be that your child is isolated out, like it's all about your child. We do it in a way that is very subtle. In your case, it's harder. So having clubs, activities, meeting for lunch, like a lunch club. Like I had a child do a chess club for lunch. I had another one kind of do, like, she loved gardening. So we talked with one of the teachers and they started a gardening club. I had another boy, I always give my juggling story. I may have given that during one of the camp you went to. But I'll never forget my middle schooler who loved to juggle. Who loves to juggle? It's scary, right? I mean, dropping it, hitting yourself in the head. But he loved it. That was a big shot role. So one of the things we want to emphasize is, what is your child strong with? And really emphasize that and use that as big shot roles. So if your child is great at puzzles, my
son's a great builder. That's what
so
he
there
loves
we
to
go.
do.
So your child will become a leader in that area to help another child do a puzzle. So, hey, Robert, would you go and help Rebecca with that puzzle?
Educate the teacher on that.
Absolutely. Big shot roles are confidence boosting. And even though it's all about building confidence, it's what we do at home as well. So building their independence in the home environment, giving them emphasizing their skills, giving them jobs to do at home, in charge of their schedule, having chores. I just read something this morning, believe it or not, on Instagram, and it said that there was this study done, and it said that the children that did chores and tasks at home were the most confident children and carried over into later life. So as much as it's like work for us to do it, it's amazing when they have a job and they feel successful.
It does make sense. It promotes success with them. They feel accomplished. They feel they met a goal. They feel they've done something worthy, and it just translates into different settings.
100%. And that visualness schedule and them knowing what their jobs are and them going up and checking it off and knowing, it's amazing how that increases their self-esteem. So as much as we want success in school, it starts in the home environment, guys. So what are your thoughts with just, I rattled off the Gettysburg Address?
I think that I feel that this experience is really personalized. And I think in coming to camp, it makes me think about how we really have our own path here. But I feel very confident that the path is a good one. And even though it may be different than other people's, it's something that we can do. And we have the tools now to be able to go forward. So.
Hey listeners, we'll get back to the episode in a second. I want to tell you about CommuniCamp, our popular 3+ day intensive group treatment and all-day parent education and support program designed to help parents, children, and teens overcome selective mutism, social anxiety, and extreme shyness. Over 3+ action-packed days, your child or teen will engage in immersive activities guided by expert clinicians that build confidence and communication skills in a supportive, fun, and collaborative environment. Spaces are limited and spots book up fast. To learn more, please find CommuniCamp in this episode's description or head to communicamp.org and complete our interest form, and our team will be in touch. Let's help your child or teen find their voice at CommuniCamp. Let's get back to the episode. Yeah, I mean, I that's the goal. Like, I like tear up thinking about it because, like, for me, I want you to have that hope because your hope and belief is what is going to project onto your son. And when you have that and you know where to go for that, it's a relief. And I feel you know this.
Mm-hmm. We've come a very long way and we still have a ways to go. But I feel hopeful. Yeah. I think just thinking back to where we were, I mean, a 3-year-old who really didn't have a big concept of what the bridge was or, really why I'm being dropped off at school. Why do I have to go? And was really not verbal at all or was just crying. And throughout the course of the past year has been verbal, has been responsive, and even sometimes initiative at school has been really something to see. So I think we have a lot to be hopeful about going forward, and it's exciting.
It is. It really is.
I mean, coming to CommuniCamp at this point in time I think it set the tone for the school year. It set the mood. Yeah. It set, like, we're ready. We're going to start off on the right foot and just go from here.
And the confidence that your child is getting from camp and feeling like I can do this, that I have found that, coming right before school or even in the summer before, like, I see myself in a school environment making this progress. But I don't want to forget to say something. It's harder for a 7th grader because they're not, like, you can't have a teacher say, well, why don't you go and do your art? Because that's awkward, But in your case, the ease of transition is having an activity that teacher can lead your child to. So having centers in school are really important because if they bring them to a table to sit with a buddy to do a coloring activity, they're just sitting there doing that at the start of school rather than standing there waiting what to do. And also, like, whatever that routine is in the morning, and you may need to ask the teacher, but usually it's walk in, take my bag, put it in my cubby, but to kind of walk through that process and do it. Just to say, hey, let's see what the roadmap is. And you make it really upbeat and positive for these kids, where they can actually draw themselves walking in, putting my bag in my cubby and visualizing it. That visualization of the school day, and for her, your older child, it's really important to let her see in the morning at 8 to 9, I am in homeroom. In homeroom, then I go and I draw my map in the school. And then that visualization and that sense of control is incredible. I don't put too many goals on the kids at the start of the year. We train the teachers. We have them work their goals as a 7th grader. What do you want? What are your goals for this year? She's in 7th grade. We don't do that with a kindergartner or 1st grader. We don't say, what are your goals yet? Usually, unless they're so proactive and I want to use my words in school and help me do it. That is a percentage of kids. But for the most part, we want to do silent goals. That's parents setting up the world, the teachers setting up the world, teaching the teachers when to question, how to question. Just a simple act of focusing on visuals and not eye to eye for teachers is so important because it takes the expectation down. And also asking other children first so that your child isn't the first one because it gives them a chance to process the question. There's these so many ways, tidbits to help these children feel comfortable and safe and have a safe person. It's important even in 7th grade to have a counselor, a resource teacher, someone that is your safe person that can check in on your child almost like mama or papa at school. Do you have someone you can think about?
Yes,
You were saying it
actually,
like
when we had a little sort of meet and greet, or they called it a signing day back in June, and I had contacted them ahead of time, and I said, I don't know if she's going to separate. And so they had us come in, the principal and the guidance counselor had us come in the day before, and the counselor took her back to her office right away and gave her prizes, like squishies and sticky notes and things that kids love. And they already started to form that bond. And so it's really good to know that she's on their radar and she'll have somebody she can go to if she needs it.
Yeah, I would love you to praise not talking in school. Please don't. Praise. I was really proud of you today. You went into school. I was really proud of you. That was a great worksheet you did. But I want your praise to be not about talking. If your child comes home and goes, I talked to the teacher, what would be your language? You must have felt comfortable today. I don't want it to be great. Now that you talk to your teacher, are you going to talk to your art teacher, your music teacher, your gym teacher? Because our children need a roadmap even to talk. It's not like they're going to go in and be like, hi, how you doing, everyone? How was your summer? It's going to be over their tasks that they're going to start talking. So it may be their interview questions, but it might be red or blue. It might be, what you see what I mean? Is that a square or a circle? It may be, you know what I mean? Which book do you want to read, the first or the second? You see what I mean? It's going to be over the tasks that children begin to verbalize. I want that to be so clear because these children aren't going to go in and make random conversation yet. But there are many that are listening, parents going, but she does have spontaneous conversation with her peers. That's great. Your child is able to do it, but there are areas your child may need to work on. That may be a more initiative with the teacher, more elaborative with the teacher. See what I mean? And we have to train the teachers not to ask choice questions, to maybe ask a direct and eventually an open-ended, but to use visuals to support. So we bridge from choice and direct up to open-ended and thought-provoking questions, and then we bridge down if need be. So it's just the strategies. I shouldn't say just the strategies, but in terms of IEPs and 504, the strategies are going to change and be tweaked based on the child's progress. And also, there's nothing wrong with you that they can email you about every Friday. So some parents are like, and I think one of you asked this question of, well, how do I know if my teachers are doing these things? Let me tell you something. You have every right to know, and these teachers are more than willing to tell you, but I would give them some sort of check off. Like, you know how we have the school about form? And in the school about form, it says, how comfortable is your child between 0 and 5? How is your child communicating with peers, teachers, small groups, large groups? And you can even give them the nonverbal, transitional, verbal. And so and any comments you have. That would be the greatest thing to get every Friday, just a check off. But it could be nothing more as how is my child doing? And as far as the goals go, I'm going to let you know that it doesn't even matter I'm saying something that I'm going to get listeners like, throw me axes. The IEP is important, but it's if they're implementing what's on there. And I think that's where you need your check-ins to see if it is being done. And I will tell you, at least for families that work with me, if I get school about forms that show progress, I know they're doing it. If I get school about forms that show no progress, they're either not doing it or they don't know how to do it. I can't tell you how that's true. And a lot of times they don't have a lot of time. But in a public school, they should have ancillary staff. And if your child is in preschool, you can get an IEP for preschool children with a disability. In your case, the school about form, we usually ask for 1 to 3 school about forms because I want to know what different teachers are seeing with your child. Because your child may be thriving in one class, but in another class, she's not. And it's usually the comfort and connection with the teacher, which is why meeting these teachers outside of school are really important, like after school or during lunch, and they meet to build that comfort.
So for the check-ins, should we suggest one for every teacher or like the safe person or like the counselor?
Well, sometimes you have your liaison that can gather that info once a week, and maybe once a week is too much. And they may go, that's a lot. Here's what I would say, because I'm also a mom. So I say it because I know what I would want, right? And I would say, would you do me a favor and just humor me for the first month? Just once a week touch in. How is she doing? How is he doing? And then keep it at once a week, and then go to once a month. At least for my families that I work with on a monthly basis, I get the school about forms every month because to me, I can't treat a child or help a child in school without knowing what she's doing in school. And I need those specific answers to be able to tweak their program, because when I write your report, I write, here's what the teachers should be doing. And then we ask the parents to please share that with the teachers. To me, it's not just what are you doing in therapy. Children can progress into speech pretty quickly with a therapist. It's what are you doing out there? What are your specific step-by-step goals and games your child is playing? And what is the teacher doing there? Because you're only with me for an hour or two. But what are they doing in all those other hours of their life and training you to do? Yeah.
So, okay. So let's say, like me, we don't even know what grade we're going into. But once we do, we meet the teacher, and then what? And then we start to introduce that teacher to our child, presenting maybe some visuals, some information.
So there's a document called About My Child. You're going to get after camp. It's also on our resource page of the SelectiveMutismCenter.org, our website. And that About My Child is a document, and you know this so well. And it's a document that says my child, about all the positives, and the best way to interact with my child is this way. And you give that to them. But your school should have an awareness to selective mutism, and if your child has social anxiety, so that they've met that criteria for that, and that you do need accommodations and interventions for that. And so you should go in with the teacher being knowledgeable. So that About My Child is just a sheet, but you should meet with them and review it. So even before your 504, you should meet with them and talk about your child's needs and what are the best strategies and interventions for them. And if you need help with that, either us or someone you're working with outside of the center should guide you for sure. Because you aren't supposed to know this. This isn't your expertise. You know, necessarily. It might become yours. I've had many parents that have tweaked their careers and have gone into the field. I'm saying, I'm always like, I work with a lot of like mental health professionals, doctors, and it's amazing how some have tweaked their career a little bit. Yeah, I did. I did. My whole career became this because of my Sophie. So, yeah. What other questions? We have a couple more minutes. I can bring out the questions. I feel like we handled a lot of these questions. Do you feel there's one that you asked that wasn't answered?
No,
We had a big one that we thought about right before.
Go ahead.
What if your kid does not want to go to school?
What if your child doesn't want to go to school? Did you say we only had 5 more minutes, Brandon, for this podcast? This is like a podcast or a blog article. By the way, guys, I'm big on my blog articles. So for you guys, for our listeners, go in the blog section. I love writing my blogs. It's me getting out all my thoughts on paper in addition to the podcast, which I love. Well, first of all, it depends on if we can set the world up perfectly, then you may be preventing that from happening. Also, to have something exciting to look forward to. So something exciting in school the next day. So the teacher, if your child is someone that has trouble, have your teacher tell them, this is what we're doing tomorrow. That might be fun and exciting. So if you know your child loves puzzles, we're going to be doing a special puzzle day during our, recess bunch or whatever. And so it's something to look forward to. And also we've had parents at home that have kept an active list of all the days I've gone to school. And if I can go for 5 days, this is the prize I get. And I want there to be that transition mode of why. I want to ask, why are they not going? Is it the big picture of being dropped off and left in the ocean to swim? Or are we getting the supports we need where the teacher greets you, you walk in, they're going to an area of interest, like doing the puzzles right away in the morning, or doing the art project in the morning, or sitting with a friend. You see what I mean? So what are your thoughts with that? Because
I think that it is being dropped off into the abyss.
The abyss.
That will trigger that.
Right. But that's why if we can plan it out, we do our roadmap, and they know on, like in your case, I've done this with kids a lot where we literally do their schedule, and we'll do their Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday schedule, because our children thrive on being in control of knowing what, when, where, and how. They don't do well with sudden change and let's go do this. So if they know on Monday, this is my schedule, after school, we're going to be doing something fun and exciting. Maybe we're going to go to the play zone in your case. Maybe you're going to have a friend over afterwards, or maybe you're going to go and get pizza for dinner that night. Yeah, something fun that they have to look forward to at the end of every day that I went to school. And let's hope that's all it takes. When you start getting into true school refusal, it doesn't usually happen in this age range. especially when we can set the world up and they see their success. And also, there's nothing wrong with using feeling scales. I use the before and after.
Mm-hmm.
So if I feel it's going to be a 3 out of 3 in your case, or a 5 out of 5 going in, what can we do to logically talk with her about what would make this easier? Well, if I saw my friends in the morning, so maybe we meet a friend at the entrance, or I pick the friend up and we go to school with our friend. Mm-hmm. So if you can bring a friend to school, oh my God, you've just set yourself up for success if your child has a friend that she really likes. And in your case, if you're driving, be that super mom and be, hey, I'll pick your son up for school. And then you pick the son up and now they're going in with a friend. That stuff may not always happen logistically because those parents may not be about it. But if you can get a way to meet with a friend that you've worked on, that they can go in with that friend, that has been such a saving grace.
Yeah. It's a great idea.
Yeah, this is why I can't rehearse this stuff, you guys. As much as Dakota sent me the questions, I'm like, stop, I can't plan too much. If our panelists could just share, when you think about camp, I know there's a lot, and by the end of the weekend, you feel like you're here for a month, but in a good way. What is 1 or 2 things that you have learned so far? I know we're only on the second day of camp, that you would say you've kind of was either an aha moment, something you've learned.
For us, it'd be that every exposure is a learning opportunity. Every exposure, no matter how big or small it is, it's progress and it's a learning opportunity, and it's a way, whether it's hand over takeover, verbal, nonverbal, everything is a step in the right direction.
Right. And so you want to see it as not a fail if the child doesn't verbalize with the strategies, but what can we learn? What can we tweak to help that child make more progress the next time?
Exactly.
And why did it maybe not work at that point? Mm-hmm. And I love that because I will have parents back that up. For example, you're doing a strategy the child's progressed into using a verbal intermediary. Excuse me, miss, can you help us? Robert, are we looking for this or that? That simple script. And your child doesn't do it one day. Mm-hmm. And you're like, why didn't it happen? Well, first of all, we didn't prepare. Mm-hmm. We didn't use a visual. And yes, I asked a choice. But I went right after he had school and he was all, pent up and needed to run. And you start to back up and to think, this is why it didn't work. Here's how I can do it different. Yeah. So what you always want to do for all of your exposures is think, what made this great and what made it not great? And then try to tweak it.
So I can tie it back to the school a little bit as well. One of our parents asked a question to the panel today about what to do if they had difficulty with explaining to the school why all of the accommodations are so important. And one of the parent panelists answered, really, when you think about it, schools usually have social and emotional learning as part of their missions. So if you need something to really advocate for your child, and you can use the mission statement of the school as a reminder that it's not just academics that are important to your child's success in school. It's also really supporting their social and emotional learning and development.
Yeah, thank you. That was wonderful.
I agree with everything that's been said, and I guess I'll just add that it's really, really refreshing just to know that the challenge that we're living with is real. It's not something we're making up. And there's a way to empower our children so that they can feel really good about what they're doing each and every day.
That's wonderful. We've accomplished our mission if you leave with that. Because that sense of hope and belief is so much of the fuel for this. So I thank you guys. I love this. And
thank you so much.
You're going to have a lot of opportunities to ask more questions. Tomorrow we talk a lot about school. And today is goal work. So you got to get back in the room. But thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Unspoken Words, a Selective Mutism podcast hosted by me, Dr. E, and the Smart Center. This episode and all episodes of Unspoken Words is produced by New Edition Productions. Don't forget to submit any questions you have from today's episode using our Ask Dr. E form on our website. Just head to selectivemutismcenter.org/ask-DRE. I'd love to answer your question in a future episode or blog post. Remember, for the best of this episode and every episode of Unspoken Words, please follow the podcast on Instagram and YouTube. We are at Unspoken Words _podcast on Instagram and Unspoken Words by DRE on YouTube. Or join our newsletter for additional SM content. We release new episodes every other Monday at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll see you next time.